Researching in New England can be very, very rewarding. As you know, personally, I've got 5 Mayflower ancestors, so that was a great deal to me. My parents, my maternal side, most of them are from the eastern part of the state. And my father, of course, his ancestors came over in 1740. So I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ancestors that keep me busy. So I've noted here genealogy resources to explore in New England. Uh, this is what I consider, and I'm probably foolish to do this, but I consider this the first census, if you will, in North America. Well, while the Mayflower Compact was an agreement amongst all of the residents that were here at the time, only 41 people signed. Women, oh, no, women didn't sign it. It's just the men. And certainly if you're under 18, or maybe it was 21, I don't know what the age, but there was only 41 signers here. But if you want to know what it says, it's pretty simple. In the name of God, amen. We whose names are underwritten, the loyal subjects of our dread sovereign, Lord King James, by the grace of God of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, King, defender of the faith, etc. Having undertaken for the glory of God and advancement of the Christian faith and honor of our king, country, a voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia, do by these presents solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and one another, covenant and combine ourselves together in a civil body politic for our better ordering and preservation furtherance of ends aforesaid, and the virtue hereof do enact, constitute, and frame such just and equal laws, ordinance, acts, constitution, and offices from time to time as shall be thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony, unto which we promise all due submission and obedience, in witness whereof we have hereunto subscribed our names at Cape Cod, the 11th of November, in the year of the reign of our sovereign Lord King James of England, France, and Ireland, the 18th, and of Scotland, the 54th, Anno Domini, 1620. So a lot of this language is obviously it's a ancient language and the things that they say and do and the things that they promise, but it's really pretty interesting to at least be aware of it. Now the Mayflower Compact itself, the original is nowhere to be found. It has been copied and recopied and so we know what it says, but the actual document itself has been missing for quite some time. But we still manage to get along on a day-to-day basis, and we've been now 405 years, so that's pretty good record. I've got a list of genealogy websites to explore, and we're going to look at them when I'm finished with the rest of this presentation, and we'll go to some of these sites and see how effective they can be. Google, and a lot of people wonder, what in the heck am I doing with Google for genealogy research? Well, we're going to show you some of the things that Google can do for you. The next is FamilySearch.org. I hope most of you, or perhaps all of you, are members of the FamilySearch.org database. This is a Mormon website, but you do not. Now, I've had people say to me, well, I don't want them coming to my door. I don't want to be bothered. Family search. Well, they don't bother you. I've got lots of friends. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm not Mormon, but I know many, many people who I didn't find out till later or by accident they were Mormon. So nobody's going to be knocking on your door trying to convert you to their research. FamilySearch.org, huge, huge, huge website. And we're going to look at that, at some very interesting tools that you can find at FamilySearch.org. Now, everybody must know Ancestry.com. And of course, it's a paid site and it can get pretty expensive. They've got 3 levels, I think 3 levels of membership, and you can join for 6 months or a year. Whenever they tell me I owe to continue it, I just keep continuing it. I've been a member, I've been an Ancestry.com member for way too long. Finally, and this might be a question for the librarian there, AncestryLibrary.com. I would be surprised if that wasn't available to you there, and it does say only at select libraries because not every single library has AncestryLibrary.com. And there's a few cute little tricks that we'll talk about a little later on. Well, let me mention it now because I can't access Ancestry Library from the house here. So if I go back to If I go back to ancestrylibrary.com, this is the trick that I learned about Ancestry Library that is very, very, very useful. When you get a document that you would like to take home with you, and you if it's small enough, you can print one copy and you're good. But you have to pay the library 10 cents or 25 cents, whatever it is. But if you get a large document that comes in two pages or 4 or 6 pages or whatever, that means you have to print all these copies and figure out how to glue it all together. But if you have a document on display at ancestrylibrary.com, in the upper right hand corner there should be a little box that you can click, and it'll open up a box that will say ask you for your email address, and then you have to put it in a second time to make sure you put it in the first time correctly, and bing, when you get home, there it'll be on your computer. And it didn't cost you anything to send that email. So hopefully that's a good hint for you folks. Linkpendium, we'll explain that a little bit later. Linkpendium, Cyndi's List, USGenWeb.com. That's Linkpendium, Cyndi's List, USGenWeb are all free. And stevemorse.org, and it's not .com. If you go to stevemorse.com, there's an attorney, there's a musician, there's all kinds of people named Steve Morse. But this Steve Morse, he's had this website for 25 or 30 years, and it's stevemorse.org. He was originally a computer wizard. Let's see, WorldCat, Fulton History. Oh, let me get back. WorldCat is like a catalog of websites for you that you can look at. Fulton History began as a strictly New York, which is why it's called Fulton. But he's broadened his coverage pretty well, as I might say. But because I didn't use that site for many years, because at the time it was strictly New York. Bureau of Land Management records can be extremely helpful to you. chroniclingamerica.loc.gov. That is something that you should look at, and this is all on your handout. Archives.gov is free. That's a federal government website. And there's also an archives.com, which is a paid site. So if you just out of habit go to archives.com, you're going to find out that they're going to ask you for a membership fee, which you probably don't want to pay. And their focus is not the same as archives.gov. So I've been showing you these two so that you'll understand that there is a difference between them. Everyone is probably familiar with findagrave.com, and I've had an account there for 25 or 6 years. And very quickly, I used to work with a guy. I volunteered with a fellow who was way older than I was, and still is, kind of a curmudgeon. He would look at a name, and he would, if it looked to him like it was spelled wrong, he would spell it what he thought was correct. And the reason that he could do that is we were working from cemetery logs. So page after page after page, and I could clearly read that the handwriting said it was like this, but he would say, no, that's not how you spell it. And he would put it in the way he wanted to spell it. So I tried to correct him while I was sitting next to him, and that was not successful, trust me, not successful. So I would write down the information, and I wouldn't make the change till I got home, and I must have changed 300 entries that he was not aware of, but he was better left in the dark on that one, that's for sure. But Find a Grave is free, and it's an excellent website, and I would encourage you to use Find a Grave. Billion Graves I don't use probably at all. First of all, they don't have billion graves, I don't think, but it can be useful for different reasons than Find a Grave, and to get the most out of it, there is a paid subscription. So let's talk about Google.com. While it's not dedicated to genealogy, it'll return pages on many topics when the searches are structured accordingly. You can open Google, then enter the word genealogy, and it'll give you, a whole host of sites that you can visit, more than you'll have time to visit. And if you select one of the dozens of options under many genealogical websites and specific topics from which to choose. So you can focus on New England, the 6 states, and structure your search based on what state you're looking in. FamilySearch.org, and I'm going to show you FamilySearch.org. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, are using FamilySearch.org, built and maintained by the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. It contains enormous volumes of data, much of which is also available at Ancestry, including DNA results. Updates are handled weekly and monthly, and from the home page, click Search, then Research Wiki. And I'll show you that when we finish with this presentation, and I'm going to show you some of these websites. But so many folks that I've talked to in the past, they were hesitant to take a look at this site, and I've had a FamilySearch account for probably 20 years or more. Now, the Mormons used to store a lot of their records in the mountain, literally in the granite mountain that's outside Salt Lake City. But you could rent records, and they would send you the record, and then you had to return it after a certain number of days, or they would bill you for you keeping it. But they don't do that anymore. There's absolutely nothing that they can send you. Everything that they have has been digitized, and it's available online. So there's no more microfiche, there's no more reels of genealogical data. So FamilySearch.org, a massive, massive website that can really do you all a lot of good. Ancestry is similar to FamilySearch, only different. It contains enormous volumes of data. Much of this is also available to FamilySearch, including DNA results. Ancestry DNA tests are only autosomal DNA, or AtDNA, which eliminates mitochondrial as well as Y DNA. And a very brief lesson here, autosomal DNA is each of you received approximately 50% of autosomal from your mother and approximately the balance of up to 100% from your father. So it's not always 50-50. It could be 48.9 and 51.1 or whatever. And that's autosomal. Now, the problem with autosomal is that it melts every generation, because if you get back to your fifth or sixth great grandparents, there's not enough autosomal to go around, because your mother, for example, got 50% from her father and 50% from her mother. Same with your father, he got 50% and 50%. So when you get to the third generation back, there's very little chance that you get everybody's DNA. And then as farther back you go, it gets melted even more and more. Updates are handled daily, so if you can't find what you're looking for today, try next week or next month. And there are numerous training pages to assist your search at ancestry.com. This is Linkpendium, what we'll get to look at in a minute. Genealogy directory of over 10,000 resources, well maintained, searches U.S. states and surnames worldwide, updated regularly, and use their Family Discoverer to search over 30 million genealogical resources. Cyndi's list, very well maintained by Cyndi, with tens of thousands of genealogical. This is free. The site is free. When you go to Cyndi's list and you find the topic that you want to discuss, you can click on it and go to that site. Now, if the site is a paid site, that's your responsibility to pay for it. But Cyndi's list itself is totally and absolutely free. Categories, hundreds of topics, the Follow Us button, and we can skip over all the rest of the stuff. USGenWeb, this is a free site, and their motto is keeping free genealogy on the internet. So this is a very good site to get accustomed to. They state that they've been proudly serving the free genealogy resources for over 25 years. And maybe it's 26 by now, I don't know. But there's no membership or registration or membership or fees required. You just select a state and off you go. Each county in New Hampshire has its own county or town coordinator. I don't know why I stuck that in there. That probably belongs on another page. But there are links to browse the USGen website. You can go one state at a time, and then if that doesn't keep you awake at nights, you can go back to it the next day. SteveMorse.org. Now, I met Steve Morse about 25, 30 years ago. He's a very funny guy, but he's also brilliant. He is a computer expert, but then he got into genealogy, and I'll show you his site when we get through this all. It's a basic but jam-packed site with no bells or whistles, and I mean no bells or whistles. His site hasn't changed in appearance in all the years I've been looking at his site for information. A link at the top of the page is about this website and how to use it. The site itself is free, but it has many links to paid sites indicated by a simple $sign. He has links to ships' passengers lists, U.S. Census records from 1950, and hundreds of other topics that you can cover. So let's talk about the organizations that that would cater to someone doing research in New England. American Ancestors was formerly called New England Historic Genealogical Society. It was established in 1845. So that's 180 years ago. So they've been around for quite some time. And they are in Boston, and they just finished a major rehab of the building, and they bought another section of that building, and it's quite amazing. The people that work there are very, very dedicated to genealogy. The costs range from a 3-month membership for $34.95, 1 year for $99.95, or a family membership for $119.95. We used to refer to this as NEHGS, and that was the website, www.hgs.org, but they've since changed that to American Ancestors because that's where they're cluing themselves. By the way, they just opened this maybe a month ago, so they haven't even got the carpets dirty yet. It's a great place to do research. This is the Massachusetts Archives. It contains original copies of the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the 1780 Massachusetts Constitution, the 1629 Charter of Massachusetts Bay, as well as Revolutionary War and Civil War records. The collections include vital records from 1841 to 1930. After 1930, the records are kept at the Registry of Vital Records. There's a judicial archives pre-1860 and pre-1960 naturalization, witchcraft records, Plymouth and Massachusetts Bay Colony. So just to put a pin in Plymouth Colony and Massachusetts Bay Colony. Plymouth Colony was settled by the separatists. They didn't call themselves pilgrims, other than what the word pilgrim means. You're traveling from one place to another for religious purposes, and they refer to themselves as mostly as separatists. And that comes from their desire to separate from the Church of England. So if they were separating from the Church of England, they wanted to do their own thing, so to speak. And they continued on as separatists. And then, of course, Massachusetts Bay Colony, about 10 years later, was settled by the Puritans. And the Puritans, it's easy to remember because they wanted to purify the Church of England, where the separatists felt that that was a waste of time. And certainly it was, because nothing really much changed. But Massachusetts Bay Colony was a much larger colony with a far greater population, and Plymouth Colony and Massachusetts Bay Colony ultimately joined together. And that story in itself is pretty interesting, how that all got put together. So here's a few of the state websites. Vermont Genealogy Library. There's copies of some vital records dating from 1760 to 2008. They're available online through FamilySearch and Ancestry.com. There's no restrictions on public access to Vermont Vital Records, which I found amazing. And there's their website, which is on your handout. New Hampshire, the New Hampshire Division of Vital Records Administration is the state resource for residents who wish to obtain records of birth, marriage, divorce, and death. DVRA also has a genealogical research vault that is open to the public, containing records that date back to 1640. This is a far cry from some of the states where they hardly let you come through the front door, but New Hampshire is pretty liberal. Maine Genealogy, the Maine State Library is a substantial collection of genealogies, town histories, published vital records for towns, etc., etc. Maritime provinces of Canada and genealogy handbooks and other helpful tools. That's the Maine Genealogist. And if you join any of these organizations, you can also get their most of them have a monthly or quarterly brochure of some kind. Rhode Island is quite an interesting history with its when it was founded and why it was founded. But the records at the state archives have been used by generations of Rhode Islanders to trace family history. And I know when I go to these websites, it says for generations of Rhode Islanders, but that doesn't mean that you can't, do business with them from anywhere in the country. They just focus on Rhode Islanders at their website. To trace family history, study immigration, and research the demographics. View historic digitals online at Digital Archive, and that's on your on your handout as well. Connecticut's kind of an oddball state. It started off being called Kinnatucket, which means beside the long tidal river, and that is certainly accurate. The Connecticut River is it's not as big as the Mississippi, of course, but it runs from Long Island Sound all the way past the Canadian border, and it's referred to as the nutmeg state because that in the 18th century there were people that were carving nutmegs and selling them. You know, they would carve up nutmegs, put them in a basket, put real nutmegs on top of it, and sell them that way. And the next day they'd be gone out of town somewhere. So that's why they call that the nutmeg state. Anyway, so that's one of the stories at least. Most of Western Massachusetts was once a part of Connecticut, and that's a bit of a story, which we probably don't have time for today, but it was part of Connecticut for the longest time. William Pynchon was the founder of Springfield. My eighth great grandfather was along with him in that, and with a couple of other people. But there was some disputes back and forth, so William Pynchon petitioned the Massachusetts Bay Colony to take over that section for it would save him a lot of trouble and so forth. There's many restrictions on the accessibility of Connecticut records. We don't have time for me to discuss, what you can and what you can't see, but you can do most of your business instead of doing it at the State House. You can go to the Connecticut State Library. They have a massive collection of genealogical records with a very, very friendly and helpful staff. They really are good people down there at the Connecticut State Library. And we're going to go online for some hands-on experience, if that's okay with everyone here. This is archives.com. This is not the free site. This is the paid site. And while there's plenty of really good information for you here at archives.com, it is a paid site, so just be prepared to pay a fee for a timed membership. 6 months or a year or whatever you feel comfortable with. A lot of the information that's here is incredibly helpful. There's a search button up here, so you can look for various people. I could put my father's name in here, and his name pops up pretty quick here. Different family trees that you can locate. That happens to be my tree. Let's see, where am I? Oh, I'm the living ropes, and that's pretty good. And then my wife is the living Thurber. That was her maiden name. But honestly, I don't have any idea how many people are on this tree. I don't know where this tree derives, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't go here at all, ever, except in presentations like this. But so much for that. So much for that site. So let's see what's next. This is the National Archives, which is accessed as archives.gov rather than the archives.com where we just were. And this is an incredibly broad and deep website. And if your focus is on New England, you wouldn't have any difficulty at all staying within the confines of the New England states. So research our records right up here in the upper left-hand corner. If I click on that, research in the National Archives catalog, and somewhere down here you can single out one state at a time or an area at a time, but there's so much information here that it would take you forever to get through it all. Veteran service records are available here. Then there's educator sources, and then there's visit us. I've spent some time at the National Archives in Washington, D.C. There's also a National Archives here just outside of Boston, but it doesn't have the depth or breadth of information that the National Archives in Washington, D.C. carry. So this is a very helpful website. Okay, this is FultonHistory.com. And the fellow that runs this is Thomas M. Triniski. And this started off as a postcard website. So if you see that fish going side to side, it used to stop. There you go. Sticks his tongue out at you if you don't proceed. I don't think fish have tongues that big, but this fish does. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and search my archives, his archives. If I click there, now I get this strange image here. But over here on the left-hand side, It says search over 57,255,105 old newspaper pages from the US and Canada. And this Victor Swan was somebody I was researching the other day, and I can't remember if I got any accurate information on him. All right. Oh, there we go. So there's Victor Swan, and there's the Jamestown, New York Post, and it has probably a number of other people named Victor Swan, but you can select the one that you want to look at and decide whether that person is your search or not. So this is his website, fultonhistory.com. More than postcards these days. So okay, here we go. FamilySearch.org. This is a site that you can spend hours and hours and hours searching. But what I want to focus on with you folks is where it says search. Now, if I click on search, there's a number of options here: records, images, family tree. Oh, family tree. Do you notice how it's not plural? I'm sure as most of you, if not all of you, are aware that there is only one family tree at Family Search. So whatever errors or problems are, for example, 10 or so years ago, somebody jiggled around with my family tree, and they had a grandmother of mine who had 3 children after she died. So I lost my faith in this particular family tree. But genealogies, catalog, books. But here's what I wanted to show you, because this is very, very interesting. See where it says Research Wiki? If I click on Research Wiki, there's the Research Wiki. Now, what you see here is the map of the world sorted by continent, and there's lots of categories of things to look at over here on the left-hand side. I haven't gone too many times to this guided research, but you could certainly try it. It's not going to cost you anything. But up here, where it says search by place or topic, if I put Indiana up there, I've got all these categories: Indiana, United States genealogy, indigenous peoples, military records, etc., church records, cemeteries, cultural group. There's a lot of information they have here about Indiana. So if I go to, let's say if I go to Indiana in the Civil War, it's going to give me all of this information on Indiana in the Civil War with links to God knows how many websites. Links to state records, Indiana State Archive records, service records, pension records. And the only time you have to pay for anything here is if you find a link and it has a $ next to it. But for the most part, I would say that 95 or even 98% of the information that they're presenting to you is free and accessible. So if I go back to the site here and I put in Massachusetts, it says United States genealogy, military records, much the same as the Indiana. Bay Colony genealogy, so you know that that's in the 17th century. Civil War, census, church records, vital records. But if I go to United States genealogy, let's see about Massachusetts. They've got all manner of links over here on the left-hand side. But as we scroll down, you'll see some records that you can reach. Beginning your research, well, here's a link to go get you're getting started. Guided research, research strategies, record finder, and then record types, adoption, Bible records, biography, and all sorts of other things. There's a map of Massachusetts. Today's the 21st century Massachusetts, where all the counties are set the way they are and have been for quite some time. And if you want to go to a specific county, there's a link down here to take you there. Defunct counties and places. Cornwall is not in Massachusetts, it's now in Maine. Devonshire, Dominion of New England. Dukes was a colony in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. New Hampshire, New Netherland, Norfolk, and Plymouth Colony. All of those are defunct because they've Maine, for example, Maine was a part of Massachusetts until I think 1808 or 1820 or something, and then it separated and became its own state. So those counties went with Maine, and there's many more counties now these days, but these are the counties that were involved in Massachusetts. Migration routes: Bay Road, Catskill Road, Coast Path. I've not investigated. I know where Kings Highway is. I've driven it many times. I know where Boston Post Road is. The Massachusetts Turnpike practically runs through my living room over here. It's just about a mile away. Mohawk Trail is a very interesting place to take a ride. The Connecticut River, that's the Connecticut River that runs from Long Island to Canada, and that is was a very, very helpful access to different colonies here. So if I go back again and look at, oh, let's see, let's look at, just for the sake of discussion, we'll look at Connecticut. There we go, United States Genealogy, Connecticut United States Genealogy. So what do we have here? Again, another list of research links that would be helpful. Connecticut emblem, and then the same, almost the same, getting started, your adoption. Over here is military records. So there's, if you're researching Connecticut and you go to this site, you're going to spend, make a sandwich because you're going to be at your desk for an awful long time looking at all this stuff. So over here, there's the counties in Connecticut. There's only 8 counties in Connecticut altogether. The lost areas are the Dominion of New England, which existed for, I don't know, 20 years or so. Long Island is not part of Connecticut any longer. It's just south of Connecticut. Massachusetts Bay Colony, New Netherland, Western Reserve, Western. Oh, I wanted to make one comment. I forgot to mention this. When the Mayflower Compact was written, they mentioned that they were in Virginia. Well, in that time period, the whole East Coast was Virginia, and it got broken up, obviously, over time. But I just wanted to explain that in case anybody says Virginia, what the heck are they doing there when they're supposed to be in Massachusetts? Okay, Connecticut migration routes. Connecticut River Valley, where I live, Farmington River Valley, Housatonic, and plenty of other links that you can connect with. New Haven and Milford Turnpike, New London and Lyme Turnpike, Old Connecticut. So let's see, what else can we find here? Let's go to, we haven't gone to Maine yet, so let's see what happens when we go to Maine. Again, and I shouldn't rush through this so much. United States genealogy, there's a lot of topics in there, but you have individual townships, you have military records that are accessible to these individual states, church records, land and property, indigenous people, probate records, maps, Maine-et-Loire, France genealogy. I don't think that applies to the Maine that's here in the United States. But just for the heck of it, let's take a look at military records and see what we can come up with here. So Maine military records, George F. Shepley, a Union brigadier general, and then other resources, colonial soldiers and officers. And I'm a member of the SAR, the Sons of the American Revolution, so I would poke around in here from time to time. I was the state registrar for a number of years, but I turned in my key on that one. It was getting pretty complicated for me. Maine Revolutionary War land grants, Revolutionary War bounties. There's all kinds of things here. Because I pinned this down to military records. So there's an awful lot of things here. Here's Revolutionary War records, and if I keep going, there's just so much to look at here, as there are in the other states. I don't think I went to Rhode Island yet. Rhode Island Indigenous Peoples, United States Genealogy, church records. So just for the heck of it, I'll go to church records. And selfishly, my great aunt was a spiritualist minister, and she lived in Rhode Island. But I doubt that any information is found on here. But she was kind of a scary person. She, she like the spiritualists used to travel all over the Northeast. And when my great aunt lived in Rhode Island, but when she was on the road, she would stop and see us in Springfield, Mass, and spend some time with us. Now, all the kids were shuffled out of the dining room because Aunt Edie was about to give them a seance or read their tea leaves or whatever crazy thing. And so we weren't allowed in the room when that was going on. But she was an interesting character. You might be familiar with this FamilySearch library in Salt Lake City. That is an amazing place. The second floor was once occupied by nothing but books. Then a short while later, half of the bookshelves disappeared. Now there was all these more computers on the floor. And when I was there a couple of months ago, the entire floor is cleared of bookshelves and books, and everything up there is computers that you can use to search for records that are probably there at the Salt Lake Family Search Library. And of course, and I'm skimming through this pretty fast, but I can tell you that there's just too much here to really that I can't focus on with a large group. I mean, I could, but we'd be here till Thanksgiving. But I just wanted to demonstrate to you all the things that you can find with this wiki search. And if you have relatives in Australia or Africa or Asian or whatever, it doesn't matter what part of the world they're from. If I clicked on Europe here, well, which country do you want? Do you want Estonia? Do you want Iceland or Ireland? Do you want North Macedonia? There's all kinds of options here. And I'll click on Asia and see what pops up. Pakistan, Palestine, Philippines, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and it goes on and on and on. So there's lots and lots and lots of information on, and sometimes the sites have very little information if it's a tiny little colony somewhere, but other sites have a great deal of information available to you. And keep in mind that everything that you do with the FamilySearch.org, if it's a document that you're trying to download, it's probably going to come to you free. And if it's coming from another website, that for Ancestry.com, for an example, if you're on Family Search and you click on a document that you wanted to own, if it's at Ancestry, you may have to pay a fee to get that document. So what is next? WorldCat, it's a card catalog for the whole world, and I'm sure that that your library is in here, but I honestly don't spend a lot of time with that WorldCat. This is Linkpendium, which we mentioned earlier. This is a couple of people that have had this together for probably 20 or 25 years. It's now up here. It says use Linkpendium's family discoverer to search 30,491,448 free genealogy sources. So that could be pretty handy. And then there's a description of what is Linkpendium, and there's genealogy links to every state in the union, surnames worldwide, hiking trails by locality, and then there's an index here of the things that they have upgraded over, and you can see it goes back quite a ways to 2003. And they delete links that are no longer useful or helpful and replace them with current links that are accurate and well worth visiting. So that's Linkpendium. Cyndi's list. Now, Cyndi, I've known Cyndi for a while. She's a character. She's just a character. But she runs this thing. When I first opened Old Bones Genealogy in New England, you can add your site to the Cyndi's list. There's no fee. And I think at 3 in the afternoon, I emailed it to her, and by 3:30 in the afternoon, she had it on her site. It was quite amazing. Okay. In this picture, I think that's Cyndi's mom, Daisy Engel. Welcome to Cyndi's list. There's an explanation of what it is and what you can find here. And again, it'll take you to free sites, or it'll take you to free records, or it might take you to a paid site. If it takes you to Ancestry.com, you know that there's going to be a membership involved. If you already have Ancestry.com, then you're all set. Otherwise, you'd have to find a different way to get in. Here's a thing, submit a new link. So this is probably where I went to add my Old Bones Genealogy of New England link to my website. So there's all kinds of things you can do here. USGenWeb, 100% free. And it says right here, keeping free genealogy on the internet. And it's you can read all this description. You don't have to register to come here and use their services. They ask for volunteers. They've always asked for volunteers. There's Indiana, and there we go. The USGenWeb project. So this is the Indiana, and up here you see About Us, Indiana counties, county selection map, Indiana obituaries, Indiana cemeteries, and more links below. So you can come down here below, and there's lots of other links here that you can use or take advantage of the fact that you can access them for free. So that could be a very, very big boon to your research. Let's see what's next. Oh, the ever famous Steve Morse. This is stevemorse.org. It's not stevemorse.com. Stevemorse.com will take you to those things I mentioned before. There's an attorney that has that, Steve Morse. Whatever. Anyway, you want to go to stevemorse.org. Now, if you notice, what this site looks like hasn't changed in probably 30 years. Imagine that. If you come here, and I encourage you to use this list because it is so amazingly helpful, there's a link here that says about this website and how to use it. I can't highlight it. There we go. About this website and how to use it. And as anxious as you might be to click one of these links, it would behoove you. I haven't used that word in a long time. It would behoove you to click this link and learn how to use the site. It's very, very, very interesting. He highlights some of these very popular links: Ellis Island and Castle Garden, other ports, because not everybody came through New York. They came to ports all around the country. U.S. Census record, as all of you know, only goes up to 1950. Phonetic matching, Canada, UK. I mean, it goes on and on. A lot of these things that seem to be the most popular sites that people were looking at stevemorse.org. And if you come down here, Ellis Island Passengers List, Ellis Island Passengers White Form. These are different forms that were used. And I love talking to somebody who said my grandmother's name was changed when they got to Ellis Island, and that is absolutely positively not true. And if they want to believe it, fine. I don't argue with anybody. But when the passenger was boarding the ship in the old country, that's when they gave their name to the clerk that wrote it on the manifest. And if they could spell, they would spell it for them, or if they couldn't spell, the clerk would write it phonetically. The only thing that happened when you got to the United States is they would check it off. And that's how vital those lines were. They didn't make any changes. They didn't cross anything out unless they were sending the passenger back. If the passenger shows up and they had some kind of a disease, they would be shipped right back to where they came from, which didn't delight the captains of the ships, because those people have to come back for free. Wouldn't pay a fare. So take a look at these Ellis Island forms, and you might find some pretty interesting information here. Ship pictures, ships and fleets, Ellis Island name change. I just talked about that. Did officials change immigrant names at Ellis Island? And he'll go into detail with you on that. Now, these are different ports: Baltimore, Boston, Galveston, New Orleans, et cetera, all the way down the line. Then it gets into some other categories. What does that say? Unified 1870 to 1950 Census ED Finder. That's Enumeration District Finder. And other helpful links here as you come down the list. We're not even halfway down there yet. Census 72-year rule. As you know, I'm sure, that a census isn't released until 72 years after its creation. And it's not because of the age of an average age. You can click on this link and they'll explain it to you there. Getting ready for the 1940. Well, we've already got ready, and I don't know, Steve, you ought to take this down, but getting ready for the 1950 census. And then there's all sorts of other very, very helpful blank census forms. You can click on that to see the blank form for the 1950 census. And you can read all the rest of the things that are available to you here. Down here, 1790 to 1950 census images, which are helpful. 1790 to 1940 census browser, 1940 census descriptions. SoundX, I don't know, maybe there's some folks in the audience that used SoundX years ago, but it was a way let me just put it this way. We don't use it anymore. So I don't know why it's still there, but if you want to learn about SoundX, you can click that and figure things out. Hebrew SoundX, obtaining language from spelling, and it goes on and on and on. There's all sorts of categories here. Lots of things about New York City. Now, if you notice, many of these links do not have dollar signs. But here's a link that says this is marriage index for 1908 to 1910 and then 1938 to 40. And I'm not sure what website this is, but it's a paid site. It could be Ancestry for all I know, but that's good. Definitely when the dollar sign is there, it's a paid site. Relationship calculators, these are pretty interesting. Who's my third cousin twice removed who married my great grandfather, whatever. So that relationship calculator can come in handy. Anantafel calculator, decoding Anantafel numbers in one step, and many other. Let's see what we got: Jewish calendar, Muslim calendar, French calendar, Mayan calendar. I don't I don't know who needs a Mayan calendar, but he's got it up here, and an Easter calendar, and it goes on and on and on. There's so many useful things here that you can use at stevemorse.org. Holocaust in Eastern Europe, genetic genealogy, creating your own search and application viewers. And I think that's the last, yeah, that's the last specific website that I had listed here. And I don't know how we're doing time-wise, but I could stop sharing if you wanted to start question Q&A.
Yeah, that sounds good. We do
Okay,
have a
let's
few
stop.
questions for you. So let's see here. The first one is wondering if there's a site that can direct you to a family surname. This person has Cook as a surname, and they're wondering if Connecticut versus Rhode Island versus Virginia would be a good place to search. It sounds like they're wondering about migration patterns for surnames,
Sure,
perhaps.
sure. Did you said the surname was Cook?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what what country they came from?
It doesn't look like it says here.
Okay, well, because cook could be spelled a half a dozen different ways, and they could have Americanized it, if you will, or whatever, to make it easier for somebody to spell. But it could be a Polish name like Kukta, Kuthca, and they just shortened it to Cook, or maybe that's what they heard when they were boarding the ship, and that's what they wrote. So that could be a challenge on on anybody's surname. My surname, I think, when we were talking earlier, you see it's Robison, but it's on records as Robinson, Robertson, Robson, and all sorts of other different ways, which gave my fourth great grandfather was um, a veteran of the War of 1812. And when he died in 1854, there was no widow's pension in 1854, but when they finally wrote the law that allowed her to have a pension, it took her almost 20 letters back and forth between her little house in Evergreen, Alabama, to Washington, D.C., to prove that her last name was spelled Robison. And that was kind of a nightmare for her. So this Cook, I mean, I'm not trying to go away from the word cook. Cook to me, right off the top of my head, is English, I would think. And maybe they could have come from some other country, but that's a tough one. You know, it's only four letters, but it could be, like I said, it could be cooked, um, could be something completely different.
Thank you. So let's see. The next one is kind of broad. It's a really good question, so it could be interpreted in a few ways. And they're asking, what is the best way to record my family history?
Well, truthfully, I use Zoom, and I use just a relatively inexpensive camera, and I mount it on the top of my computer, and I have a microphone, and I can go through the questions that I usually ask. So first of all, let me back up a bit. First of all, you got to get the permission of the people you want to interview and make sure they know that you're going to record it. And maybe they won't let you record a video. Maybe you can just ask them questions and they'll answer it. But you got to get their permission to get them to cooperate. So you don't want to barge into their house and try to take over. But in my opinion, I would use a camera, um, maybe even your cell phone. You could, if you can hold it steady or mount it somewhere and click the video to take a video of the people that you were interviewing, ask them the questions and have it close enough to them so when they answer it, you can hear what they're saying. But that's the easiest way to do it, I think. But of course, today we're all into Zoom or something, and that's what I would recommend. That would be a great way to do it. But anyway, um, does that answer the question, you think? Or
That's helpful. Thank you. And our next one's related to the FamilySearch full text, and they're wondering, do we know if that will become a permanent feature?
what? I'm sorry, which feature I didn't.
The FamilySearch full text search.
I think so, and of course it would depend on how many people took advantage of it and were using it. So if they find that it's very useful, it'll stay there. But there's no telling what will happen. It's not like um, Google. They put something up, then they take it down, then they put something up, and they take it down, and they drive you crazy. But Family Search, I think, is a little bit more organized than the folks at Google.
For our next one, they're asking, do you have a favorite print source that you always check for early New England records?
A favorite print source?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I no, I don't have a favorite necessarily. Um, I just go wherever I have to go to get the documents that I'm looking for, the records that I'm looking for. And sometimes the spelling can drive you nuts. You're putting it in the wrong way. Sometimes you have to use asterisks, the first three letters, then an asterisk, and the last three letters, or whatever you might want to do. But there's different strategies to look for names. And I can't tell you the hundreds of people that have said to me, no, 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 that's how my grandfather spelled it. So I don't argue with them. I just try and work with them. Then when I get home, I do my asterisk magic and I end up finding it. Uh, and that's happened more often than it should. But anyway, there we go.
Thank you. All right, it looks like we have time for one more question. So in the chat, I put our email address, which is genealogy@acpl.info. If anyone has a question that we didn't get to, or if you'd like a copy of the chat. And so for our last question, this person is looking for people from Massachusetts that settled in Orange County, New Jersey, or sorry, North Carolina before the Revolution. The surname is Grimes, and she thinks they're possibly Quakers. So if you have any recommendations as to where she might begin.
So this is an 18th century ancestor, pre-revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Family Search might be the best place to go and track them down. You have this, yeah, would you say Grimes?
Yes,
Yeah. So I would almost count on that name. Cook was a different story because it could be spelled and it could be shortened, it could be anything. But Grimes, there's a minister here in town whose name is Grimes, so I know that it's a good surname. But I would use Family Search, and of course, I only went to that one site on Family Search, but I would certainly give that a shot. And let's see, she thinks they were Quaker. Is that it?
possibly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I would still take a look at Revolutionary War records, Revolutionary War militias and so forth. But they went from the South and moved up to, where did you say they moved?
Orange County, North Carolina.
Orange County, North Carolina. Okay. Um, well, it's very possible they could have been Quaker. Um, and if so, it's highly unlikely that they would have allowed themselves to become wrapped up in the Revolutionary War. Uh, that's a good challenge. That's a good
Yes.
challenge.
Well, I think that'll finish us up. So, um, thank you again very much for presenting, and thank you to everybody for attending. And then again, our email is genealogy@acpl.info. So if anybody has any questions, please send us an email, or if you would like a copy of the chat. So thank you again, and I hope everybody has a good day.
You too. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye now.